Welcome to the Love in Action Podcast, the show that explores all the ways you can evolve into the best version of yourself as a leader. I'm your host, executive coach, speaker, and author, Marcel Schwantes. I believe that when we show up with our full humanity to work and lead from a place of love and care and inclusion, it will make a radical difference in your leadership, your business, and your bottom line. This is a show about love as a leadership and business strategy. Let's do this.
Hey, glad you could join us today. It's truly an honor to have today's guests drop in and chat with us. In a few minutes, I'm going to be talking to Alan Mulally. If that name sounds familiar to you, it's because Alan served as vice president and CEO of the Ford Motor Company from 2006 to 2014, and he really transformed Ford into one of the world's leading car manufacturers and the number one automaker in the US as a result of his leadership. Now, prior to joining Ford, Alan served as executive vice president of the Boeing Company, also as president and CEO of Boeing Commercial Airplanes, and president of Boeing Information, Space, and Defense Systems. Now, under the Boeing umbrella, he served from 1969 all the way to 2006 before taking over at Ford. Now, Alan has been recognized for his contributions all over the place, including being named number 3 on Fortune magazine's World's Greatest Leaders, and also one of the world's most influential people by Time magazine. Sarah McArthur is also joining us in this discussion. Sarah is editor-in-chief of the 14-time Apex award-winning Leader to Leader journal. She is the executive producer of Defining Moments, which is a documentary about the life and leadership of Presidential Medal of Freedom recipient Frances Hesselbein. Sarah is also former chief executive operating officer for Marshall Goldsmith, world-renowned executive leadership coach, who I've featured on this very podcast. Sarah has written some important books, most notably Work is Love Made Visible and Coaching for Leadership. Sarah's mission is helping leaders work together towards a bright future. Sarah and Alan have partnered up, and together they have developed this incredible system called Working Together. And they're going to present their whole system to us and how this very system helped spearhead Alan's incredible success at Boeing and Ford. Now, I know many of you are listening to the audio version of this podcast. However, a lot of the concepts and strategies you're going to hear today will have a more of a visual element with slides and diagrams and frameworks. So the guests and I highly encourage you to also refer to the accompanying slide deck that comes with this episode and with this presentation, which you can find as an attachment in the show notes on my website, marcelschwantes.com. And if you're watching on YouTube, go ahead and pull up the slide deck as well to follow along, because it's going to be a much richer experience. Okay, let's do this. Without further ado, here's my conversation with Alan Mulally and Sarah McArthur. Alan and Sarah, welcome to the show.
Great to be with you, Marcel.
Nice. Thank you so much for being here, both of you. And we are truly in for a treat today. And I'm going to ask Sarah to go ahead and show the slide. And folks, I didn't sneak this into my introduction because I like the element of surprise about the topic that we're going to be talking about. So, Alan, I'm going to start with you. I'm going to ask you to kind of share briefly your story in your own words, and then we can then dive right into our conversation.
Well, absolutely. And I'd like to comment on one thing you said in your introduction that it always makes me smile. And that is when you announced that Fortune had named me the third best leader in the world. And I've had a lot of people ask me, starting with our kids, that said, "So, Dad, what do you think about being number 3 and not being named number 1? Because we think you're fantastic. And I would say to them, you guys, it's okay. Number 1 was the Pope. I'm still trying to get to heaven. It's fine. Okay, so with respect to your question, my story is really about my love for working together with others to create value for everyone and mankind. And my entire life was enabled by that, or enabled for that, as I grew up with my parents and what they taught me, and also what I continued to learn, lifelong learning and continuous improvement. And so the things that we're going to get a chance to talk about today is not only the service that I had a chance to provide, but also the details of that, so that everybody can understand what that means and how you can go about it to really create value for everyone and yourself.
Yeah. Well, I can't wait to get into some of the questions that I have picked out, and really to introduce our audience to this model, this sort of a system of leading and managing that you came up with. I believe that it was at Boeing that you developed something called Working Together. Tell us about it and how it all started.
Well, it really started early on in my life, and I continued to improve the working together because I loved working with people to create value. But you're absolutely right. When I joined Boeing, of course, when we designed an airplane like the 777, it has around 4 million parts. It flies halfway around the world. It's safe, it's efficient. And we usually have around 600,000 people that are helping with that design. So it's phenomenal. So you can imagine how much I learned, because I was on the design team of every Boeing airplane, the 707, the 727, 737, the 747, the 757, the 767. And then Boeing asked me to be the head of engineering and then the program manager for the 777 airplane, which is considered to be the finest airplane ever in the world. And also the launch of the 787 before I left to go serve at Ford.
Okay, so I want to dive in a little deeper. Alan, you are also known in the industry for your, as I mentioned, working together principles, practices, and I love this, but I'm biased, what you call the connected and collaborative culture of love by design. Please share those things with us.
So this is the bio that Marcel was sharing with you, but just a little bit more information that also shares a lot about the working together. These are the 4 questions that Marcel and I agreed to start with. And the reason is that over my 48 years of serving at Boeing and also serving at Ford, and being married for 54 years with my wife, Nikki, and our 5 kids, that everybody wants to know about my formation as a person. And it's going to be fun to share with you, because I never really ever talked about myself until I met Sarah and Francis Hasselbein and Marshall Goldsmith, who you mentioned earlier. And so these 4 questions, and then the principles and practices, and then also the working together leadership and management system that Marcel shared. And then another one that people always want to ask me about is, so Alan, you seem like you have a really integrated life. And so how do people handle work-life balance? I never quite really understood that, because I thought we had just one life, and our occupation, our work was one part of it. So with respect to your first question of my formation, including my family and Boeing and Ford, I like to start with the answer to that question. And also for all of our participants, Sarah and I worked together to put this material together for our conversation today, and starting out with the questions and answers. And then also Marcel will have a few more questions that for clarification, which will be great following these 4. And we also created a set of slides for me to use to answer that, so that even after our conversation is done today, that you all have that and you can study it as you wish, including a set of references that Sarah and I have added to the back for you, so you can learn as much as you want to learn about the working together leadership and management system. And we know that people have used all this material to actually implement the working together leadership and management system as they wish. Okay, so here's Sarah. Look over on the right-hand side. Here's the cover to Work is Love Made Visible. And this book was written by Frances Hasselbein and Marcel Goldsmith and Sarah McArthur. And as Marcel shared, these are three phenomenal leaders, and starting with Frances. And Frances and Marshall and Sarah, plus Peter Drucker and just a couple of other people, were the leaders of starting in the Industrial Revolution to start to teach leaders how to move from command and control to working together. And we've made a lot of progress over the years, but we've got a lot of opportunity to improve that. And so they came to see me, and they're three very, very good friends, three of my very best friends. And they said, okay, we're going to write a book. And we have 35 journalists and editors that are going to share their thoughts. And you look at the bottom on finding your purpose from the world's great thought leaders. And so they said to me, we would like you to write the foreword to this book. And look up at the top, Marcel, you see the foreword's by me. So I said to them, well, can I read the book first? And they said, sure. So they gave it to me. And then they came back and I said to them, well, it's really a great book. Holy cow. I mean, it's so thoughtful and comprehensive. But I don't think that I can really add a lot to it. I mean, it's fantastic. And so why do you want me to write the foreword? And so Frances gets up close to the computer, Marcel, and she says, Alan, we think we've dedicated our lives to educating and training and coaching leaders. And we think you are one of the very best examples that we could ever share with people about how to be and also how to do. Because Alan, this is Frances talking, who you are as a human being is going to have more to do with your success at implementing whatever service that you are delivering, anything else. And you are one of the best examples of that we have ever met. And I said, so, but again, what do you really want me to do? And they said, we want you to explain about who you are and why you have become the person that you are. Because everybody says to us, and everybody talks about this, is that everybody know what you've done and they know how you've done it, but they don't know who you are. And I said, as I said to Frances again, Frances, I don't ever talk about myself. And she gets up close again and she says, exactly. That's why we want to have this conversation with you. And that's why we want you to write the foreword. So I said, well, how do you want me to approach it? And they said, well, we want you to just write your story. And I said, of your life. I said, well, when do you want me to start that story? And she got close again and she said, when you were born. Oh, okay, when I was born. So I've never done that, Frances. And she said, exactly. Okay, so have fun. And so they left and I started writing it. And this material here that Sarah and I put here for you is the foreword to Work is Love Made Visible. And you look at the first page, and I start out with recognizing Frances and what she believes in, and you can see the importance of it's how to be and not just how to do, because it's going to have everything to do with your doing, and to serve is to live, and opening the doors for others and having a bright future. I mean, just phenomenal stuff. And of course, this is Sarah also, because Sarah was the co-editor of the Leader to Leader journal that you mentioned with Frances. And when Frances passed away at 107, our dear friend,
wow,
that she asked Frances asked Sarah to be the editor-in-chief of the Leader to Leader journal. So this is what she has dedicated her life to capture the essence of this with all the different writers that are very knowledgeable about it. And so here's the start of the story, and I'm going to share a little bit more with you in detail. And then you can see I really started at the beginning. You can see on the second paragraph, we didn't have very many resources when I was growing up. We had wonderful parents that loved us and taught us everything we ever wanted to know about living and serving with love and humility. But we didn't have a lot of financial assets. And so all I really wanted, I can remember this early on, is a pair of Levi's and maybe some Ouijan penny loafers to just fit in with everybody. And so I started working and all the different jobs I could think of. And what I found out doing this is that people really appreciated my service. And they'd actually not only thank me, but they would always compensate me for it. I said, boy, this really makes a lot of sense. So we have some more about the things I learned. You can see on here, people first, everyone's included. This is from day one. I was learning this about working together because I wanted to include all the stakeholders so I could do a really good job on the service. And everybody felt really good about that because they were contributing and making a difference. And they were having fun and they were enjoying the journey. And then as I shared with you, I joined Boeing. And so I learned all about this at the highest level. Boeing had around 200,000 employees. We had 600,000 when they were involved. We were creating our fantastic products. And so the governance process, the leadership team, the principles and practices, these are all things that I was learning, but then I kept writing them down. I kept learning about them. I kept adding to them and blah, blah, blah. And then I get to the 777 and they asked me to be the leader. And so all of this came out. It was alive and I included everybody and taught everybody around the world. And we had so much fun and we created the very best airplane that's ever been created. Okay, now a summary of this formation. And you look down the left-hand side, and I was really influenced by my parents, as I shared with you, and also Dr. Reverend Turner, who is the head of the Congregational Church that was in Lawrence, Kansas. We lived right across the street from it. And I just couldn't get enough of him and everything that he shared about the importance of love and service with humility. And then you look at the expressions down the left-hand side, and these are all the things, Marcel, that my parents taught me. And it's amazing how they did it when I look back, because you look at the first one. And so every day when I was getting ready to go to school, my mother would stop me, or my dad would stop me and give me a hug, wish me a good day. And then they'd always say, okay, this is my mom. She always says, the purpose, what is it? Do you remember, honey, what the purpose of life is? And I say, oh yeah, the purpose of life is to love and be loved. And she'd look at me and she'd smile and she says, that's great, Alan, but in that order. Okay, big mom. Okay, thanks a lot. Then the next day, my dad would say, honey, remember, to serve is to live. And I shared with you how that just enabled my whole life going forward. And then seek to understand before you seek to be understood. Wow. By working together with others, you can make the most positive contribution to the most people. And I grew up in Lawrence, Kansas, where the University of Kansas is. And I went to the University of Kansas. And my parents would actually invite a lot of the students that lived around the world over to our home to host them for Thanksgiving and Christmas even. And I loved them. I learned so much about them. They were very different. They were unique, but they all were there because they wanted to learn, and they believed in people and they believed in serving. And they wanted to learn how to do that. And so some more that they taught us were expect the unexpected and expect to deal with it positively. Lifelong learning and continuous improvement. Respect everyone. We're all creatures of God. And when I say that, I mean all religions, because all religions at the highest level are about serving humanity. And develop one integrated life, and that's your life's work of service. And the last one, Marcel, I never forgot. And that is, and I never was not, and that is nice to be important, but it's more important to be nice. So you get back to what Marcel has stood for about being kind and loving and serving and caring. I mean, everything he's been teaching. When I started tracking Marcel, I said, now Sarah and I have a really good friend here because we absolutely have the same beliefs and values and behaviors. Now you look over on the right-hand side and you can see that everything about me was about lifelong learning and continuous improvement. So I started out in the teenage years. I had all these different jobs, from the newspapers to the TV guide route, to working for the Dillon's grocery store as a checker, as a bagger, working on the farm, on the ranch, and construction. And then as I went to KU and then MIT to study aeronautical and astronautical engineering, I also helped all the professors because I didn't have I had to pay for my college education myself. So I was serving to create value also for myself, in addition to everybody else. And then, of course, Nikki and I were married for 54 years. We have 5 kids, and man, have I continuously learned a lot about service. And then I joined Boeing, as we talked about. And of course, then I'm learning project and program and business expertise and skills, and also working together at the highest level. Because when you integrate 4 million parts that have never been together before, boy, do you ever learn a lot about working together with 600,000 people. And then also the leadership and management system that all came together on the 777. And then, of course, I never thought I'd leave Boeing. And then Bill Ford called. I'm going to share a little bit of that with you too. And so he wanted me to help him save Ford at the time. And also, as Marcel pointed out, we did. And we didn't borrow any money from the government. GM and Chrysler went bankrupt during the economic recession. And we became the #1 brand in the United States, the fastest growing in the world. And also, we used exactly the same working together leadership and management system that we used at Boeing. And now, Marcel, I'm here with you and all of your fabulous believers to share not only what you and I believe, but also how you can actually implement this. And it's really straightforward. It builds on who you are as a person. It aligns your values, your beliefs, and your behaviors. And what's really phenomenal about it is when you live to serve with love and humility, then everything about this working together leadership management system and people working together enables you to make all the decisions every day in the right direction to accomplish the value that you're trying to create for all of the greater good. And I'll share a little bit more about that. And then as I went through this and I wrote this up, then I asked Sarah and Francis and Marshall, because Marshall is fabulous on stakeholder centered coaching, which I included all in every step of my life, and everybody else had a coach all the way along, starting with the leadership team, coaching, helping each other. And I said, what do you think about this? And they said, and they all came together in about 5 minutes. They said, okay, here's you. You are working together. You believe in that and you have a way of doing it. And you're a leader. And you do this to live and to love everyone and serve with humility. And I wanted to check that out. So I checked with our kids, and I checked with Nikki, and I checked with my friends. I said, what do you think about what they're saying? And they all said, I think they're really on track. And so at the bottom there, if you want to know about me, that's what everybody thinks. And I think about it every day, and it makes me feel good to think about it, and also thoroughly motivates me to continue to serve as much as I can. Okay, so that's the answer to your very important first question. So what is your second question, Marcel?
Yeah, and I alluded to this earlier. I might have jumped the gun a little bit, but since we're talking about themes of love and frameworks of love, you're also known for the connected and collaborative culture of love by design. Is that a proper way of calling it?
Oh, absolutely. And I'll share a little bit more about what that entails. So here's a slide that I developed over the years and really refined it at Boeing and then also on the 777, where everybody, all 600,000 people around the world, all the stakeholders, everybody had this slide and this information. And you can see it's all about a connected and a collaborative culture, and it's of love by design. This means we designed it. We designed this system to create a culture where it would enable people to connect, to collaborate, to align, to be and to do and to serve the greater good. And so you look down below the title, then you see it's all the operating processes, all the expected behaviors of all the participants, and to develop a skilled, healthy, and psychologically safe and motivated environment and motivated teams to accomplish this. Because you just keep thinking about the 777 or an F-150 these are sophisticated products that take a lot of wonderful talent. So here are the main elements of that. Look at the first one. People first, love them up with a heart. Whoa. I've had a number of people over the years when I first started out saying, Alan, we've never heard a CEO use the word love in a sentence. And so can you share some more about this? And I said, absolutely. I'm not looking for a date. This means I love humanity. And we are going to work together and align around including everybody and a compelling vision and a comprehensive strategy for achieving it and relentless positive implementation. And we're going to do that by working together. And then we're going to be really clear about our performance goals, really clear about using facts and data because we care about what every member of the team thinks, but we also want to know what data they're looking at so that if we have an issue, then we can all work together to solve it. And you look on the right-hand side, and these are very, very unique, Marcel, as you know, to most companies or most organizations, because this works whether it's just yourself, whether it's your family, whether it's a small company, a profit, nonprofit, or whether it's a really large company. This works for every organization, starting with yourself. Expect the unexpected and expect to deal with it. Everybody knows we have this rapidly changing world and rapidly changing people. And so expecting that, and also when you're in the design business, you create something and you see all kinds of things that you're going to learn along the way that you're going to use everybody's talent to refine them to accomplish your objectives. And this is another thing that very few people do. Everyone knows the plan, that compelling vision, strategy, and plan, the status, and the areas need special attention. And we do that with a weekly meeting where we have the entire team and every one of the members, all the functional leaders, all the business plan review leaders, a nice simple matrix organization, that they share everything about their vision, strategy, and plan for contributing to our overall one. And they color code their slides, Marcel, green and yellow and red. Whoa. How many companies do you know where you can share a red before you have an answer? Very few. We've had CEOs mostly tell us, you only bring me an issue, if you have a solution. That's why we hired you. Well, now you're trying to manage a secret because you don't know what the issues are. So if you're going to do something as sophisticated as what we're talking about, you want everybody to know what the status is. And then you'll share with them whether you need to have a special attention meeting on it or whether you're going to be back together next week and you're on your way to find a solution to the yellow or the red. And if you need the help, then we all meet in special attention meetings, 4 of them, on strategy, on the product and process, and the people, once a month. And so we solve those together using all of our talent. Propose a plan. Look at these very sophisticated words, Marcel. Propose a plan, positive, find a way attitude. Wow, really. Respect each other, listen to each other, help each other, appreciate each other. You can see that these are not really sophisticated words like beliefs and values. These are behaviors that we can see. And the reason that we do that is that we're not psychologists, we're not psychiatrists, but man, oh man, we know that these are the behaviors that we need to create this culture of working together and love by design. And we also know from everybody that once they start operating this way and behaving this way, then what happens to them is they start aligning their beliefs and values, no matter what they were before, they start aligning with these kind of behaviors, which is phenomenal for creating an integrated one life of your life's work and love. Emotional resilience, trust this process. Something comes up, can you imagine this in your personal life? Go right back up to the top. Are you including everybody, tapping into all the knowledge, doing it for the right reasons to create value for everybody and growth? Along the bottom there, you see it. And then have fun, enjoy the journey and each other. And this is so fun, but there's one really important aspect, and that is no jokes at anybody else's expense, ever. That's not the joy. The joy is the journey of creating value for everybody, all the participants, and then all your rest of your stakeholders. Because it's never funny if you make fun of somebody, but it also gets in the way of working together because people are concerned that they might be made fun of. So they're going to be very careful about sharing a red or yellow item. And what we want is to be sure it's so we can clap and say thank you, and then we can all work on them together in terms of reds, yellows, greens. And you can see that as we talked about, this people working together creates value for all the stakeholders and growth for all the stakeholders in greater good. And not just the business, but every person grows as a human being and serving, in addition to creating value for all the stakeholders in the greater good. PGA, with the heart around it, does not stand for Professional Golf Association, Marcel.
Thanks for clarifying that.
It stands for Profitable Growth for All. And this is the financial member of this working together that I really loved because it was so simple. Because profits equals revenue times margins. And great companies are growing. They're growing in their profits, which is a positive thing, because if you're not growing, you're dying. And if you're growing, then you can work on the revenues by making products and services that people want and value, and simultaneously work on the margins, on the efficiency, because profits equals revenue times margins. And if you're going out of business and you're not growing, and you have a set of people that are working on the margins, well, the number one thing they can do is lay people off. Well, that's not the purpose of business. It's to profitably grow so that you can grow the business, provide more and more opportunities, get more and more efficient as you do, so that you provide the products and services that people want and value that are always getting more and more valuable. Okay, now I got 2 examples that I'd like to share with you, Marcel, and everybody that's attending today. My 2 examples are Boeing and Ford. Now, look on the left-hand side, and there's the agreement that we signed with the leadership of United Airlines. It's handwritten. You can tell that's probably, wow, that must have been a really important agreement. And it's signed by Boeing and Ford. You can see over on the right-hand side. And look how long it is. This is for the 777 airplane, Marcel. Okay. This is an airplane that costs $200 to $400 million. It flies halfway around the world. It gets people together. And look at this agreement. in order to launch on time, no other airplane had ever been delivered exactly on time 5 years in advance. A truly great airplane. We have the responsibility to work together. Oh my, man, were we ever communicating with them because we promised them this, because there's no other way we could do this, accomplish this if we didn't do it, including all the stakeholders, to design, produce, and introduce an airplane that exceeds the expectations of the flight crews, the cabin crews, the maintenance and support teams, and ultimately our passengers and shippers. And look at these three things. Never had been done before. Best dispatch reliability in the industry, meaning that within a few minutes of every schedule for the airplane to depart, it departed. Over 98%, it departed on time.
Wow.
Greatest customer appeal in the industry, including all the stakeholders. People love it. It has a lower pressure altitude. It has moisture in the cabin. People feel great. It flies higher, it flies smoother, it flies longer. You don't have to keep stopping along the way. You can fly halfway around the world. And user-friendly, and everything works. Let's look at that working together. Whoa. So Marcel, here's the rollout of the 777 airplane. And look at the 110,000 people that are on the ground there underneath the airplane. And when you look closely, you can see them holding up their children so they can point to the part of the airplane that they helped design and manufacture. Now, it could be all on the inside, like a seat or the cockpit or something like that, but they just hold them up and point to it. And you can see on the front of the airplane, there's a little script there close to the cockpit windows. And if you look up on the left-hand side of this slide, you see it in red, working together. Whoa. Now, we've been talking about working together, and the airplane's name is working together. Well, everybody knows usually on a flight of a first airplane, whether it's military or commercial, the names that are on the cockpit underneath the windows are the names of the pilots, because it's the first time the airplane's going to fly. And so you have two pilots or one pilot, and that's it. So here's John and Kenny and dear friends, and we had their names on the front. Airplane is getting ready for first flight. This is on the day of the first flight. And they had their names on the cockpit, and they came to see me the day before. And they said, Alan, we have never had a working together experience like this in our life. The fact that you included us, you included all the rest of the pilots, you included the pilots from all around the world, from United and all the rest of the launch airplanes. You can see all of their symbols down the side of the airplane above John's head. And this airplane is going to be phenomenal. So we'd like you to take our names off, and we'd like you to put on working together. So I shared that with everybody. They all voted 100%. They said, thanks a lot, you guys. I mean, we're honored to serve you. And they took off. Usually a first flight's a little over an hour. They flew for 4.5 hours. Airplane was fantastic. They actually started the whole flight test program, and it resulted in the most reliable, most fantastic airplane in the world. And here's our second example. And here's Bill Ford, who's the chairman of the Ford Motor Company. And last night, Bill was celebrated by the Global Automotive Hall of Fame. And if you get a chance to listen to it, I'm sure that'll make it available to everybody. It'll blow you away. It's just phenomenal. And he's a great grandson of Henry Ford, and he asked me to join him and be the CEO. And he actually asked me if I needed to be, he thought I needed to be to save Ford, turn around, that he would enable me to also be the chairman. And I said, Bill, I'd only come if you stayed as a chairman, because you're the owner, along with the rest of the Ford family. And we're going to be taking a lot of great decisions that need to be done, and we need to do this together. And I need all your help and your wisdom, and the fact that you know everything about Ford and the 100 years they've been in service. And so he said, okay. And it was one of the best relationships working together I've ever had. So we started again, just like we shared. You need to start with a compelling vision, a comprehensive strategy, and a relentless implementation. And this is an article that Henry Ford published in 1920, either 23 or 24 or 25. And he had 50% market share worldwide. And he published this. And when you look at the words down below, he shared the strategy that they were going to achieve to do that. He's going to include everybody, the technology. And then he ended up, I'm going to get close so I can read it. The Ford Motor Company views this situation a less with pride in great achievement than with the sincere and sober realization of new and larger opportunities for service to mankind. Well, when I asked everybody, we need to come together on our compelling vision, they all came up with all kinds of things. And then the communications people actually went back in history and they found this and they brought it to the team. And we all sat there going, whoa. And you can see up on the right-hand side, Marcel, see the Ford, F-O-R-D. So that's the plant in Detroit that changed the world. And so we all looked at that and went, holy cow, we're going to open up the highways to all mankind all around the world. And so we adopted this as our vision, which you can see the power of a vision when everybody knows why we're together and why we're going to work together to what we're going to create for everybody. Now, I also included this for all of the participants today. And this is actually a slide. This slide is actually a card that had a front and the back. One team, one plan, one goal on the left hand, on one side. On the backhand side, expected behaviors. And so the business plan is on the left-hand side, and you can see it. Aggressively restructure, accelerate development of all the new products, finance the small home improvement loan, and then work together effectively as one team, because Ford was all around the world with a different Ford in every country. And then you look at the behaviors, and every one of the behaviors that we talked about earlier, Marcel, on the principles and practices, which is what you believe in, and Sarah and I and Francis and Marshall and everybody else that has worked together effectively. And so I did it all together with the team. I always do that with the team, even as I coach and counsel people. And they organized it, and look how they organized it. F-O-R-D. So they organized all of the expected behaviors right there, all the same ones. Then across the bottom, for everybody that's attending today, you can see the details of the strategy that we're going to serve all the markets around the world. That's the first circle. All the different sizes, small, medium, and large. Use our One Ford working together leadership and management system and culture of love by design. And that would deliver profitable growth for all for the long term. So there's our revenue times margins, products and services that people want and value with ever improving productivity. And you can see how we're going to do it. All the markets, and we sold Aston Martin and Jaguar and Land Rover and Volvo and Mazda to focus on Ford and Lincoln. A complete family, small, medium, and large, cars, utilities, and trucks, best in class, quality, green, safe, smart, and value, and the essence of everything, and that is working together globally using our expected behaviors. Okay, so those are the two examples, Marcel, and we're ready for your third question.
I love it. I just want to make a comment on everything I heard so far. And one thing that really sticks out for me, Alan, and you are either famous or infamous for saying this, love them up. It's that first bullet point from your, the whole connected and collaborative culture of love by design. People come first, love them up. And I was thinking as you were talking that all of the parts that you put together equate to growth and profitability, but it also equates to growing people, not only as individuals, obviously as individuals, but also as human beings, right? And so when I think about love them up, a lot of leaders say, yeah, we have to love them, or you have to love them well. But you're the first one that coined the term love them up, which to me
exactly
connotates, growth as a human being. That's what to me is going to elevate a company to grow together, is when people are growing individually. That's going to create
Marcel,
growth.
Exactly. And remember, I mentioned this, that everybody has a coach. All of the participants have a coach, starting with us, ourselves. Everybody on the leadership team, think of we are the coaches of each other. And everybody has 2 items that we all work together with each other, 2 items a year that we agree that we're going to work, including me, that we're going to work on, that's going to move us up on our ability to lead and serve and work together with others. And so you think of the other thing about what you just said. Look at the power of one Ford. Whoa. Talk about alignment. Talk about authenticity. Talk about who we are. Talk about we're going to follow the same process every week, that business plan review. We're going to follow the same behaviors and no exceptions to it. Because when you look at all of these behaviors, also there's 0 tolerance for violating these behaviors. So if you do it, and these cards are on everybody's body, they're also on the walls of every room around the world. And if you choose to go after somebody or beat them up or intimidate them and stuff like that, then we just stop the meeting and look at you. Can you imagine, Marcel, if we just stopped the meeting and looked at you? And we're not looking mean, we're smiling. Marcel, would you like to try that again? Okay, great. And if you need some coaching, I'll stop by and see you in your office. And one of the things I'm going to ask you is, Marcel, do you understand what happened today? Do you notice everybody stopped talking and got quiet because they're scared to death? And so, are you going to move on the back side of your slide here of your card? And if you don't, it's okay. And they said, you mean it's okay? Like, because I'm really good and I'm command and control and I'm really smart and everything, that I can keep acting this way? I say, Sarah loved this part. When people told her this, and I said, no, that's not quite what I mean with okay. What I mean with okay is that it's okay that you decided to move on, that this doesn't work for you. And I wish you the best. And also remember that first principle. You're a human being. We love you and we wish you the best, but we need you to operate this way so that we can create this value for the greater good and we all can grow. And I want you to go home tonight. I want you to gather the people that love you and you love them. I want you to go through the situation that happened today. I want you to ask them what they thought. So you get everybody's thoughts. And then I want you to come back tomorrow morning, because I don't want to guess what you're going to do. And neither does anybody else on the team. And are you going to move in this direction? And do you want a coach or any help? Because we're all here to help you. Or are you not? And if you're not, we wish you the very best. Only a very few people, Marcel, when you have this conversation, because remember, you're together every week. Every week you're having a conversation. They're all presenting their stuff. Everybody's helping them out, blah, blah, blah. And so everybody is so supportive of each other, and they see everybody each person is growing, and they see that and they love that, and they're growing. So your point is really well taken. Sarah and I'm going to share with you on the last question that what we have learned from everybody about what they have gotten and received from this working together more than anything else. Okay.
Yeah. And what I love about your example, Alan, is that, it holds people accountable to the shared values and the expected behaviors to move us forward, right? I mean, yes, a lot of people are critical of the whole love framework and love in action because they think that people are going to walk all over you and that you're just going to be a doormat if you lead that way. But they forget the part that is the tough love of the tough love part of the equation, right? It's to hold people.
Marcel, just remember, you're just having the meeting. I'm just stopping you now. So how'd you do? How do people think about that? Not about what you just said, but if you actually go after somebody to your point, see, you won't do it. I mean, you either have to decide that you're going to join this or it's okay.
Yeah.
That every person that chose that they didn't think they could do it called me before I retired to tell me, and most of them came to see me, they wish they would have made a decision to move in this direction, to serve with love and humility. Everyone did. And so you know what happened is they went ahead and did it. They all this information they knew, and so they started doing it, Marcel. And then they'd give me a call later, say, it really does work, Alan, even when you start out as a command and control person. Okay, so next question.
Yeah. So you're also known for your working together leadership and management system. So share what that is with us.
Okay, now one chart, and this is it. It's really straightforward. It's really simple, and it's really sophisticated in a simple way. But it's easy to do when you learn this. So here is the system. And the system has 5 elements. We just talked about the principles and practices. Now, what's really cool about this system is this system we created, Love by Design, to implement those principles and practices. That's what's phenomenal about this. See, that's why anybody that wants to do this, start with the principles and practices, write them down, go over them with your team, and then you say to yourself and to everybody else, okay, how are we going to implement it? See, this is the do part. So we just did the be part on the principles and practices. Now we're going to do the do part. How are we going to do it? Well, first of all, we're going to have a governance system that includes all the board of directors and selecting the right person. And then we have a leadership team, and look at the leadership team characteristics. That's how we select all the people. And look at there's the humility, the love, the service. Look at what we're doing as a leader. We're teaching, facilitating, coaching, mentoring, not telling everybody what to do and being command and control and taking all the responsibility away from them. And then look down a little bit lower on that, and you can see communicating and nurturing our working together leadership management system forever, to your point. Forever, you're doing it and growing with zero tolerance for violating. And so everybody knows that too. So they know everything on this slide. And so if you're going to start to go after somebody or put them down or not listen, we all are not going to tolerate it. And you can also see why there's a line under the word leader on leadership team. What do you think this starts with? The leader. Sarah did this to me. I always put leadership team because I never talk about myself. And she said, Alan, I've been studying this. I've been studying this with Francis forever. And you also need to say the leader is really important. You need to say that to everybody. Well, it is true. And so it took me a day or so, didn't it, Sarah? And I finally said, Sarah, this is one of the most important things I've learned from you. We got to highlight the leader. Okay, very good. Okay, and then zero tolerance. And then you can see, to your other point, Marcel, look at the one from the bottom. Stakeholder-centered leadership, keeping everybody, and stakeholder-centered coaching, which means that's Marshall Goldsmith, where you have a set of people in your life. It can be your personal life, it can be your family life, it can be your service life, and you have a set of people that you are sharing your vision, where you're going, what the plan is, and then they're giving you feedback regularly, just like we're doing every week in the Business Plan Review. The Creating Value Roadmap is a lot of fun with a rapidly changing world. What's our product strategy? What's our process strategy? What's the people strategy? And boy, here's the people strategy we're talking about. And then what's our performance? Are all 3 of those adding up to growing the business over time and go at least 5 years out, no matter what your business is? Because it makes you think ahead, not only on working together, but what are you going to do to create value and grow both the revenue side and the margin side? And then the last one the business plan review, weekly meeting. We go through the business environment. We're never surprised because every member of the team, we use a matrix organization that has the functional expertise, that has the business units, the P&L, and we go through the environment, their vision, strategy, and plan, the status and the forecast, work on the special attention items, and then we're always working on the better plan. So when we satisfy the first bar there down on the left, then we also update all 5 bars going out. So it only takes us like 2 nanoseconds at the end of the year because we've been working on it the whole year. So that is the working together leadership and management system. And as I shared with you all in the front, Sarah and I have added a set of references that will teach you in detail, as much as you want to know, how to implement this system. Because the reason it's called a system is you need to do this over and over again. And also think of putting arrows going around this right to left and then all the way around. Think of it, 4 arrows on the outside of that circle. And think of every week you're going around and around and around and around this. And so you're touching on every bit of it, you're learning it, you're growing it, and you're feeling better and better about it. Okay, your last question, please.
Yeah. It's a topic that, we sometimes talk about on the show, but maybe not often enough. I mean, I admit it. You're known for your work-life balance. Share what that is.
Okay, now what I'd like to do, you look on the right-hand side under the leadership team, and you see the word authenticity. And this is probably the best thought that we can come together on about what life is about, and to have an integrated life that makes sense for all the different aspects of your life, including work, if you use the word work instead of service. I'll bet that most people will move to service now instead of work, because that your service is every aspect of your life. Okay, Sarah and I had so much fun because everybody was asking us about their beliefs and or sharing with us their beliefs and their values, and what a difference their behaviors made about this, because I had a chance to feel this and be successful at it. And so everything that you couldn't see, but was in their mind from their history and everything else on their beliefs and values, they started seeing how that got to be more and more aligned. And so they didn't have a different life for the different aspects of your life. It was aligned. And as we shared, that Francis taught us, it was including all the be and the do. So who you are and what you're thinking that people can't see, and then what you're doing that everybody can see and how you're doing it, that becomes now your one life, which is now going to be your life of love and service with humility. So, and your other neat point, look at the lifelong learning on the left-hand side, continuous improvement. You're going around and around and around this circle every day. But you know, the data says, and I know you know this, Marcel, but maybe for everybody else, that the data says that most people stop their learning by the time they're between 35 and 40. And they just start being just who they are and doing what they're doing. Well, you can imagine what your life's like on every aspect of your service if you're doing this over and over again. You're just getting better and better and better at having aligned a life between your beliefs, your values, and behaviors. And the reason that we love the authentic is this is exactly the dictionary, the expression in that dictionary. And a lot of them are very complicated when you look up a word, but man, they are clear. And it's alignment between your beliefs, your values, and your behaviors. That's why we use the behaviors on the principles and practices, because we can see that and everybody else can see it, and then we can work together to improve those, and the rest is going to happen for everybody. So what does that mean about the be and the do? And on the left-hand side, you can see somebody captured me saying this, that leadership is moving from I to we and me to service. Now look at this, I to we and me to service. And thinking about the people you know, starting with yourself. Are you more about I and me? Or are you starting to move over to we and service? And if you're starting to move over to we and service, then look at that, how that fits. We and service. That sounds like people working together to serve with humility and love. Wow. So we in service. And so everybody, to your point, Marcel, the more that they move to we in service, then the more they're going to appreciate what it means to serve the greater good and great value. Okay, so lots of different ways that people think about to be and to do, who you are and what you do. So we just added a few of them. Look at the top. We just went over this. People can't see your beliefs and values, but they can sure see your behaviors. And they can guess what your beliefs and values are. Maybe not, because you act differently, whether you're at home or whether you're at the office, or whether you're thinking about yourself personally or whatever. Another way of looking at it that people describe as character and competencies. Character for who you are, competencies, minds and actions. You can't see their mindsets, but you can sure see their actions. So the key of all of this is, isn't this interesting? The plus. Look at Francis again. It's both of them. You got to be thinking about both of them, and it starts with the B. And so lifelong learning, continuous improvement, and these are the qualities. However you want to say it, these are the qualities. And look at there's Francis, one of the best leaders of all time. It's the quality of our character that determines the performance and the results, the do part. Francis Hasselbein. And you could also think of, you're looking at Francis' protege and Sarah right there. Okay, now how does this, to the way you said this is great, Marcel, how does this result in your life? Well, look at all those aspects of your life in the middle. You notice I didn't put in work life there. I put occupation. It's your occupation, because your work is your service in every aspect of your life. And so your occupation, your family life, your spiritual life, your community life, your personal life, and your being and doing and all of that. Well, what happens when you become more and more authentic is you become very integrated in this life. So now you have an integrated life. And look at the top. Look very familiar, like one Ford, one Boeing, one yourself, one life. Look down at the bottom. It's your life's work of service and humility, love, and service for every aspect of that. You're going to be the same person, the way you act, and eventually what you believe and you think, with every aspect of your life. Think about how your stress goes down, your anxiety, trying to be different in all those aspects. Think about, you're at home and then you come to work and then you're one way at work, you're trying to survive. Then you go home and you have to figure out, either you do or you don't, how to be a different person to love them all up. And so lifelong learning and continuous improvement. You look over on the right-hand side and look at that, Marcel. We just described the working together leadership and management system, but the business plan review, that's a way of doing it. Also, you can do this with a family plan review. You can also do this process with a life plan review for yourself. You just select a few people, a few friends of yours, and maybe share with them where you want to go in your life and what's your strategy for achieving it and who you are, and then ask them their thoughts. They'll be your stakeholders, and and then share, review that with them every once in a while. It's phenomenal. And you know what the coolest thing about this whole thing? When you look at that title at the top, now when you become one integrated life, and it's your life work of service, and you're doing it with humility, love, and service, your love is made visible to everybody. And you know what people tell us, Marcel? Is it blows them away, because they also find that when people see their love of others that's leading everything they're doing, they find it inspirational and motivating. And so this is one of the biggest contributions that we can each make by moving in this direction, because we don't have to go tell everybody about it. They can see it. And so it's visible to everybody. Okay, now a couple of last things. We put an example here, and we just use me. Sarah's done it, and all the leaders that I've coached, we do the same thing. It's really a great exercise for everybody. Fill in this just like I did, who you are, why you are who you are, what you do, and how you do it. And capture everything about being and doing. And then check for awareness, check with your friends, check with your family, check with people you love and trust and stuff like that. And make sure that what you have down there, especially on who you are and what you do and how you do it, is you're looking at it the way most people see it too, because that's also a tremendous source for learning for you to go forward. And then we end up with how it all comes together. So we went over the compelling visions of Boeing, Ford, and the Mullallys. And if you want to know more about my implementation of that, you can ask me that question about did you really do a working together system in a business plan review with your family? Holy cow. And then Sarah and Francis. So look at this, Boeing, Ford, Mullally's, and Sarah. 4 examples for you. Working together to produce the preferred new airplane family. This was our vision for the 777. Isn't that something? So look at this. Every one of them working together. There's the process. There's the behaviors. And then keep looking at the word to. Produce the preferred new airplane family. Ford, to open the highways to all mankind. Think about this every day with all these hundreds of thousands of people around the world thinking about these things every day. It's on the card. They look at it. They're getting a chance to be it and live it. The Mullally's. Isn't this interesting? This is what our family with the 5 kids decided. Our family is going to work together. They're people. Our family working together to serve with love and humility and help each other get to this place and contribute and serve. And then Sarah and Francis, holy cow. People working together to create a bright future for all. That's what Francis brought to the world. That's what Sarah agreed with. That's what Marcel agreed with. That's what Peter Drucker agreed with. That's what the President of the United States agreed with when they awarded her the highest recognition for her service. And so we made just a little drawing for you, Marcel. Marcel, this is for you to have fun with. And also, it's not just one thing. You can do this every day. Whatever it is that you're going to do during the day, and you have decisions to make, just write it down here. Working together to do such and such. And the working together will enable you to make the best decisions you could ever make, because that's what you're going to be looking at that determines the result of the decision you make. Is it helping create value, starting with yourself, for yourself, because you're the human being, and you also have a partner, and that's the person you look at in the mirror in the morning. Just ask them how they're doing and how's it going. And then you can make a decision to help keep moving that in the right direction. So it works for every aspect of your life. Now, one more thing. Here's some questions a lot of people ask. Some more questions. And this is the bios that we shared earlier. We added this as a special thing for you, Marcel. So to answer all those questions, anything else you want to learn, Sarah and I put together these references. And there are thousands of references about working together. They're all fantastic. Everybody has loved capturing them and sharing them with people. And we selected a few of them. And Sarah has organized this so when you click on the blue one, then you go right to it. And so you don't have to worry about chasing it around. And you can just look down the left-hand side and you can see the titles. And right away, you can see how that's going to teach you, starting with the work is made visible. And also the interview with Sarah, the conversation with Alan, the extraordinary power of leader humility is phenomenal with Marilyn Giss. And then also you can go down a little bit. You can see the American Icon, which is still a phenomenal book. that shares the whole transformation at Ford. And also you look down there and you see a 21st century jet, which includes the 777, and it's the book, but everybody can go right to the video and you can see 5 1-hour segments that show everything about all of us creating the 777 with its 4 million parts in 4 hours. It's really, really cool. Okay, so Marcel, great questions, and we welcome any additional questions you have.
Yeah, I have a couple. And folks, by the way, I want to make sure that you know that this will be attached as a PDF file, so you can click on any of these links.
Absolutely.
So, Alan, as great as this whole model and framework, we know it works, but there are skeptics and doubters out there, and they might think, this is never going to work in my organization. Has your working together model ever not worked?
Let me think about it. No. Okay, now here's why. Think of the process, and you get a red, and you and your team are going to figure it out. And if you need some help, then the next week you'll say, okay, we'd love everybody's help, so let's have a special attention meeting. Okay, so then all of those 12, 15 people that are on the leadership team, all the functions, engineering, manufacturing, procurement, communications, government and community relations, and then all the business unit leaders that are on there that have P&Ls, like the different airplane programs, or Asia, Pacific, Europe, North and South America. So we get together, and then you can imagine with all that talent, then we solve that issue. And if it needs a slightly different plan going forward, well, we create that too. But we're still doing that to create our vision and our strategy and plan. So even if you have a red one and you have to change something about that red item, it's okay, because you're changing it to accomplish what you've set out to do. So it works every time. And it works because of the working together, got the idea or the problem out in the open by the person that knew the most about it, and you used all your talent to solve it. Now you can imagine in your life how that works. If you've written this stuff down with the people you are one with, or yourself, about yourself, and you look in the mirror in the morning and you say, how is it going? And you had violated that the day before. Well, right away, you got a chance to improve it, right? So it's always going to work as long as you follow the process in a very disciplined way.
Yeah. All right. So, with frameworks and systems, sometimes one element weighs more than the other. Like when you take working together as a whole, would you say there are elements that are more important than others?
No. And that's why it's called a system. And that's why we covered the elements that we did. Mm-hmm. And you can imagine that the way we designed it, Love by Design, is we made it just fit in the way we're doing the work. You're not going to a separate meeting somewhere else. That business plan review is every week, and all of the participants attend. And when at Boeing and Ford, they were all connected around the world. It was all connected, and all the leaders were connected. And so everybody was going through the vision, they're going through the strategy, going through the areas need special attention, the plan, the areas need special attention. And so you can imagine that was touching every one of those 5 circles. So if you need to update the leadership team, you need more talent or different talent or stuff, whether you're updating the strategy, the conversation you have with the board of directors, and also the thing that everybody looks at is there a change that we want to make, an improvement we want to make on the principles and practices? Do Sarah and I have been watching all the people that do this, and once they've selected their principles and practices, especially if it's close to the one that we showed, it's really hard to find something that you would change about that. And you don't want to make them too. A lot of people have ended up adding a lot of beliefs and values on that. Well, the definition of those are very complicated. They can't see it. And so they end up going back to really focusing on the behaviors. So
Yeah.
I would say that it's really straightforward, but it's also the way you're operating every week. And also, people tell me they all learn the details. Some learn it, within a couple of weeks, some in a couple of months when they design. Some people learn an element 2 years later. Oh, that's what you mean by that. Oh, because they have to have an experience where they look at that behavior and realize, oh, no, I violated that.
Yeah. Okay. So let's say that I am maybe a small or medium-sized business. I'm not a Ford. I'm not a Boeing. I'm just, I have a roofing company in the middle of Chattanooga and I only have 50 employees. Is this going to work for me?
Yes, and it's phenomenal. It's almost like you can think about it, the simpler the organization is that you're participating in and what you're trying to accomplish, almost it's the easier it is to implement the discipline. Because when you have a lot more people, you need to have more meetings with everybody, sharing everything, the status, and blah, blah, blah. And if you're doing it by yourself, think about yourself. You look in the mirror every morning. You only have two questions. How are you? And how is it going? That's your partner, right? Just try it. And then answer the question. Well, if you have a family and you're doing a family meeting, profit, nonprofit, small, medium, and large, it's the same 4 items. And the fewer the people, it's just a little simpler because you have a few less people to educate and help grow and develop and learn.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. So I have some of my own questions that I picked out as a sort of a way to wind down and transition to bringing it home here. Let's say that I am a CEO. I mean, there was a lot to unpack in this working together model. I'm a CEO. I'm totally bought in. I am all in. How do I begin the journey? Is there a first step?
Absolutely. And so I'll just use an example of myself.
Mhm.
So when Bill Ford asked me to come to Ford, so I learned everything I possibly could, and he was phenomenal. I mean, he's so knowledgeable and he's so thoughtful, and his integrity is phenomenal, and he shared everything with me, everything from day one, all through the years, and the more he shared, the more I'm going, whoa! I mean, this is a big deal, and we're gonna. It's going to take all of our working together to save our Ford and create a fantastic Ford again. And so, can you imagine? I'm getting ready to leave to go there, and I took 2 pieces of paper. Oh, by the way, I'll give you a hint. 2 slides in what we just reviewed. I took with me. Can you imagine which ones?
Ooh, put me on the spot.
Let me give you a hint. One would have something to do with the principles and practices.
Yeah. I can see the heart right in the middle. I'm wondering if that's the one.
That's slide 10. Okay. And then how do you implement the principles and practices? Slide 17. And that's the working together leadership and management system.
Perfect.
Marcel, those are the only 2 pieces of paper that I took. Now, all those references in the back, I mean, my gosh, I mean, people all wanted to know those. They read them, everything. But the things that I taught them over and over again, including selecting the team, who they were, their be, their do, and then teaching them this for the first 2 or 3 months. And I got into the business plan review as quickly as we could. Started teaching them everything on those 2 charts. And remember, we're meeting every week. Do you know how fast they learned that?
Mm.
And they started operating that way. And learning, see, there's a lot of things where people say, well, you can learn something and then okay, that's good. No, you got to do it.
Right.
You need experience, so you have to do it. And when you do those things, and then think about it, and you get in the car and go home at night, holy cow, you know exactly what you did. You know exactly the areas that tomorrow
you're going to further enhance.
Yeah. There is so much thought leadership around, servant leadership and how to be a good leader and all, but we still have to follow through on the actions. Otherwise, you're not.
That's why you can't. Wish you could say that over and over again, because that's why the leadership and management system is the implementation of those principles and practices. When you say, "Oh, you have to have a compelling vision, comprehensive strategy, relentless implementation," well, you need to do some work to figure that out. Well, you need all those people, and especially on the working together operating process and the behaviors. And look what happened when I included everybody at Ford. They wrote that all up with FORD. So now it's theirs, and everybody, all the people in Ford, all of the suppliers around the world, when they looked at that, they knew I told them, and they told them. They did that together, and they were absolutely 100% committed to implementing that throughout the whole world of those set of suppliers.
Yeah. I sometimes poke fun at executives who spend so much time and energy and money on strategy, but they don't do the implementation part.
Well, and Sarah and I, you are on top of your game. Sarah and I have kept track of all the articles, and Sarah knows this because she's a phenomenal editor of a phenomenal journal. And we've kept track together of all the articles that are written about the be part, like you just described, and how many are written about the do part, the implementation. 70% about the be part. And there are some really good ones about the do part. I mean, the universities all have some examples and stuff like that, but most articles are, and that's important, just like Francis said, because who you are is going to have more to do with your success doing it than anything else, but you still have to have an implementation plan. And so that's why Sarah and I put the plus, because those two integrate the be and the do. Because those are two sophisticated words, be and do. Well, I saw somebody do something or not, and is that a be or do? Well, it's integrated, and you want to have your be and do be integrated. You don't want to act one way in one area, another way in another. You want to be the same human being with everybody. And your same human being is you are here to serve others with love and humility.
Yeah. Yeah.
And all tied together. We all have the same compelling vision.
Right. Right. Sarah, you've been so quiet. I'm wondering if I can ask you a question.
Certainly.
And then we'll close out with each of us giving our final takeaway. Sarah, I'm just curious. Francis was your mentor. Are there any lessons that absolutely just stick out to you to this day, where it's so clear for you that this is the way forward for leading and managing, or just a way forward for growing companies? Is there one that sticks out of all her lessons?
Well, they all stick out. Thank you for asking. They all stick out. And I always say that Alan and Francis are two peas in a pod. And they share everything philosophically, leadership-wise. Two that really stick out to me are respect for all people. You saw that when we went through the slides, respect for all people. And the other one is to serve is to live. And they're both completely servant leaders. So those are my two peas in a pod.
That's great. That's great. All right, folks, let's close it out. What's that one thing, maybe a key takeaway for us all listening and watching to take home with us?
Well, Sarah and I know you too, Marcel, are honored to have this opportunity to share what we all think, what we think and what most people have this part of their thinking, and get a chance to share a little bit more about the be and a lot to do about how to do it. And so I just wish everybody
a wonderful life going forward. And I think that the neatest thing to get started is start in the morning with your partner when you look in the mirror, because that's your partner. And just ask them how it's going, and anything else that you need to do to serve is to live with humility and love. And it's amazing what it'll mean to your life in such a positive way.
That's awesome. How about you, Sarah?
Well, I'm very happy to be here. Thank you for having us. And we really enjoyed getting to work together with you. And my just final thought is that we're all in this together. So we just want to keep working together towards a bright future for all of the stakeholders and the greater good. So.
Fantastic. All right. Well, this conversation is over, folks, but you can keep the conversation going on social media, on LinkedIn. Just add the hashtag Love in Action podcast and look in my show notes on my website. Also, I'm going to put it up all over the place. Okay. I'm going to include this in my newsletter on LinkedIn for the deck that you just watched and saw Alan walk us through. That's going to be available as a download. Okay. Click on it, download it, spread it far and wide. And that's all we got for you today. Signing off, I'm Marcel Schwantes. We'll see you next time on the Love in Action podcast. Cheers.
Thank you, Marshall. Thanks, Sarah.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Love in Action podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, please share it, subscribe, and leave us a review. Until next time, don't forget, the future of leadership is love in action. Believe it, practice it, and watch your leadership and business flourish.